Good morning, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome and thank you for being here. We are going to start on page 341 with Lo Yisagoy. Lo Yisagoy el goy herev, Lo yilmedu od milchama, Lo Yisagoy el goy herev, Lo yilmedu od milchama. Goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama, lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to another Saturday morning service at TBT. Welcome especially to any new members joining us in person or online. We are so excited to be here for this community-led Shabbat. My name is Liz, and I am joined up here with Elizabeth and Amy, and we are delighted to be leading you through this prayer service together. I want to take a moment before we start to just acknowledge that it's been a very hard week for a lot of people close to us, for members of our congregation, and everybody affected, especially by the California wildfires. And Shabbat is a time for us to practice finding blessing even when there is so much hardness. So thank you for being here to be part of that. We're going to begin our morning blessings with Moda Ani, giving thanks for the souls that we get back every morning, according to our tradition. You can find that on page 68. Moda ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shehechazarta b'nishmati bechemla, rabba emunatecha. Moda ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shehechazarta b'nishmati bechemla, rabba emunatecha. Turning to page 75, we have an alternate reading for Matovu. Matovu started intending to be a curse against us. The prophet Balaam is hired to look over the field of Israelites and proclaim a curse on them so that their enemies would prevail against them. And he gets up and he holds out his hand and he's looking over the Israelites, and what comes out is this beautiful blessing. And I think that something beautiful about the words on page 75 is it reflects ways that we can turn curses into blessings. May the one whose spirit is with us in every righteous deed be with all who work for the good of humanity and bear the burdens of others, and who give bread to the hungry, who clothe the naked, and take the friendless into their homes. May the work of their hands endure, and may the seed they sow bring abundant harvest. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs talks about the dialogue between earth and heaven and how sometimes terrible things happen and we want to ask why. We want there to be an answer. And he says, in this dialogue, there are no answers. To expect them is to misunderstand what the conversation is about. If there were answers, we would be reconciled to the world as it is. We would be at peace with a world in which there was sickness, hunger, persecution, and violence, for we would be forced to say, "Such is the will of God." The point of the dialogue between earth and heaven is not to receive answers. It is to acquire, through our encounter with God, the strength to carry on, to re-engage with life, to build, rescue, and heal. In Judaism, God is not in the answer, but in the question. There is no answer to the question, why do the innocent suffer, at the level of thought. The only adequate answer is at the level of deed, in the long journey toward a world in which the innocent no longer suffer. To be sure, there is acceptance in Judaism. We call this tziduk hadin, coming to terms with suffering and loss, saying that all God does is for the best. But Jewish law asks us to accept only that which cannot be changed, and there is no evil in the future that cannot be changed.
Let's continue on page 77, reading together. Asher Yatzar, appreciating the strength that we need physically to then attack the spiritual and emotional challenges that we face. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced network. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life, were one of them to fail, how well we are aware, we would lack the strength to stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and strength. Baruch atah Adonai, rofei chol basar, umafli la'asot.
We turn now to page 78 for Elohai. Elohai, Elohai, neshama, shenatata bi tehorahi, ataberata, atayetzarta, atanafakta bi. Ve'ata mishamra bekiri. Elohai, Elohai, neshama, shenatata bi tehorahi.
And reading together at the bottom of page 79, translation of what we just chanted. My soul came to me pure, drawn from the reservoir of the holy. All the time it remains within me, I am thankful for its thirst, for compassion and justice. Let my eyes behold the beauty of all creatures. Let my hands know the privilege of righteous deeds. Baruch atah Adonai, Asher be'ado nefesh kol chai, veruach kol basar ish. And turning the page, we begin our daily miracles, blessings, and I never do this without thinking about our emeritus cantor, David Serkin-Poole, who taught me to recite these like a patchwork quilt so that the amens overlap with the beginning of the next blessing. So I invite you to help me lead this in a way so there are no spaces between the blessings. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan l'sefivina lavkin ben yom uvein laila.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefurfim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz hamayim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechin mitzadeh gavim.
Amen. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam mabisharumi.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten la'ya'ef koach.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir shena me'ina u'numama yafa paz.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tselem Elohim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'nei chorim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael bigvura.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael betifara.
Amen.
We just gave thanks for many of the little blessings in life, and we at TBT like to use this as an opportunity to reflect on other daily blessings. So does anybody have something big or small that you're feeling especially grateful for this Shabbat that you'd like to share? Birthdays, amazing. Kitty purrs and all pet love.
All of our new members here who we get to celebrate and welcome.
Amen to that. New members to keep our community growing. Any others? Amazing. Elizabeth, you want to read the blessing over Torah study?
On page 86. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah.
Having just said the blessing for studying Torah, we read in English on page 88 a little bit about Torah study. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. We are turning now to verses of praise. And this week I was thinking of a song that we don't very frequently sing, but which I did not put down the page for, which is exciting. A song that we very infrequently sing, but is about finding strength. And if you'll give me just a moment, I'm going to find the page number. You can find it on 343. This is Ozi v'Zimra Ya, and I'm going to read the English before starting the song. Adonai is my strength and might. God will be my salvation. Ozi v'Zimra Ya, vayehi lilishua. Ozi v'Zimra Ya, vayehi lilishua. One more time. Ozi v'Zimra Ya, vayehi lishua.
We continue on page 108 with the Baruch, and I invite you to stand. Baruch et Adonai Havorah yotzer or uvrechoshech, osei shalom, uvorei et hakol. And reading together on page 111. In the beginning, even then, a new light was sown for the righteous, a promise that your light would become the catalyst, first for hope
and then for
for
hope.
hope. Author of language and light, help us to use words as you have,
to cast light into dark waters and draw out justice and truth. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMe'orot. You may be seated. On the next page, we find, or on page 113, we read in English, "Love your neighbor as yourself, you said, and like blinded, we saw that inner and outer worlds are one, as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us as we climbed, fell back, and climbed again, your Sinai of life. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael, be'ahava." Before we head into Shema, I just want to mention there's a midrashic tradition that this Torah portion is actually where the Shema first is recited. It's not on the page. They made this up, as the rabbis love to do. But they say that Jacob has all his sons around them, and he realizes he's going to die, and he gets very distressed. We have in this portion, he's giving out blessings and sort of an ethical will. And the rabbis imagine that he has this moment of real panic about, has he done enough to pass on this legacy he was entrusted with? And the rabbis imagine that all 12 of his sons at once say, "Shema Yisrael, understand, Father, listen. We know that God is one, Adonai Echad." And they are reassuring him in that moment that the legacy is secure and will pass on to the next generation. And I just love when elements of the service kind of come up in the text. So I wanted to share that sort of sweet passing on moment before we head into Shema Ve'ahavta.
It also fits with the idea of welcoming new members also. Passing on. So let's join together on page 114. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'otecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha bebetecha u'vlektecha v'derek u'vshokbecha u'kumecha u'shartam le'od al yadecha ve'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. Turning the page. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael ve'armata lehem ve'asu lahem tzitzit al kanfei vigdehem ledorotam ve'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf v'til techelet ve'haya lachem Litzitzit uritem oto, uzkartem et kol mitzvot Adonai, va'asitem otam, ve'lo taturu, acharei levachem, ve'acharei nechem, asher atem zonim achareihem. Leman tizkeru, va'asitem et kol mitzvotai, V'yitem kedoshim leloechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti echem מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
For Mi Chamocha, there's a much more laid-back version that I would love to teach because teaching it is the same as singing it because it's just a call and echo. So I invite you, as you get comfortable grabbing the words, which you can find on 122, and putting them with the melody to join me. Mi chamocha, ba'elim Adonai, ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha, nedar ba'kodesh, nora, tehilot, oseh, feleh, Adonai Himloch, Leolam va'ed, Adonai Himloch, Leolam va'ed. Call and repeat part is over. We are moving on to Tzur Yisrael, Kuma be'etzrat Yisrael, Uvtechnu mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, Go Haleinu, Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
We turn the page for the Amidah. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Bekonei hakol, bezocher chasdei avot v'imahot, u'mevii gula livnei bneihem, leman shemo b'yahava. Melech ozer u'mashiach magen, Baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham v'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mekayeh hakol atarav le'Moshiach, Mashiv haruach u'mori hagashem, Mechelkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim berofei cholim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, mi chamocha bal geburot, umidom elach, melech memit umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, ne'eman talachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Mekadesh et Shemcha ba'olam,
V'shem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom kakatuv al yad neviyecha v'kara zel ve'amar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzvaot Melech kol haaretz Kvodo Adir Adirenu Adonai Adonenu Ma'adir Shimcha b'chol haaretz Baruch kevod Adonai Mimkomo Echad hu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshiach V'hu Yashmi'enu B'rachamot Le'nei kol chai Ani Adonai Elohechem Yimloch Adonai le'olam Elohai Yitzion Ledor vador Hallelujah Ledor vador nagigo lecha Unetzach netzachim kedushata natish V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. You may be seated, and please take a few moments for silent meditation or prayer, what's in your heart or what's on the page as you find most inspiring.
We come back to page 132 for Vishamru. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. B'nei b'nei Yisrael otid le'olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'yom hashvi'i Shabbat v'yinafash Shabbat v'yinafash V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit
olam.
We now turn to page 142 for Yehu Leratzon. Yehu Leratzon Imrefi Vehegion Libi Lefanecha Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri V'goli V'goli.
All right, we are going to turn now to the main event, the Torah service. I'd like to invite up Molly Launer to help with our Torah choreography. And when we open the Ark and deal with the Torah, we rise as able as a sign of respect. So I invite you to do that, to rise and turn to page 244 for the beginning of our Torah service. Ein kamocha Elohim Adonai, ve'ein k'ma'asecha, malchutecha malchut, kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor ador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai olam lo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Al harachamim eitiv avitzoncha et Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim. Ki lecha levad batachnu, melech elrom v'nisa, Adon olamim. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai me'Yerushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadlu Adonai iti, u'ne'ramema shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagvura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod. Ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'hamidna aseh lechol rosh. Al shu Adonai Eloheinu v'esh והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו, רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו.
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו.
You may all be seated. This week we are reading from the very last portion in the book of Genesis, which is Vayechi. If you have a Chumash, a printed Torah, you can find it on page 315 and 316 in the blue edition. That's 315, 316 in blue, and page 323 in the green Torah Women's Commentary. And for our aliyahs, we have 2 Torah readings today. And for the first aliyah, I would like to invite up a significant chunk of this congregation, which is anybody who has nurtured TBT. The pages, again, are 315 and 316 for the blue, and 295 to 296 in the green. 315 and 316 blue, 295, 296 green. And for the first aliyah, again, anybody who has been part of nurturing the TBT community, so if you have volunteered for things, if you have cooked for things, if you've shown up for things, if you're on a committee, I would love to invite you up. And I say that because our second aliyah is going to be new members, and this is a chance for you to demonstrate to them how we do an aliyah here. You can find the Torah blessings somewhere. So, Torah blessings are on page 250. All right, ready, leaders?
You're gonna touch.
Starts right there. Baruch Adonai Hambarak Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarak Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vayelchu gam echav, vayipelu lefanav, vayomeru hinenu lecha la'avadim. Vayomer alehem Yosef al tira'u, ki hatachat Elohim ani, ve'atem חשבתם עלי רעה, אלוהים חשבה לטובה, למען עשו כיום הזה להחיות עם רב.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chaye olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Thank you, Yasher Koach, you all. You may be seated again. Would you two mind being our representatives of this aliyah? Thank you. Oh, and Molly will be chanting the next verse, and I would like to invite up new members for the aliyah. So if you are someone who has joined our community in the last year or so, or just consider yourself to still be new, I would like you to please join me up here. And I'll do it with you. I think I'm the newest person on the Beamer right now, so it counts. All right. Anybody want to come? What verse do you start on?
Is it
I'd love to tell you.
just a second?
That sounds right, yes, 21. Thank you.
That's it.
All right. Going to boom. Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen.
Come closer.
Close for the blessing.
Or you can, Serena, you can help.
You're gonna hold the.
Amen. Ve'ata al tira'u anoki akalkel etkem ve'et tapet. Kem vayinachem otam vaydaber al libam vayeshev Yosef b'Mitzrayim hu uvetu aviv vayahi Yosef me'ava esher shanim vayar Yosef le'Ephraim b'nei Shilei Shem gam b'nei Makir ben Menashe Yuladu al Birki Yosef.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam l'tzach Eloheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah. Yasher Koach. Thank you all. You may be seated. We are so glad you are in our community, and in fact, Amy's going to share a couple special words.
So let me add my welcome to new members, to Liz's warm welcome. So glad that you're joining our community, and with Liz's permission, I am going to share a poem with you that's dedicated to you in this moment, but I encourage everyone listening, even long-term members or of any length, to feel a sense of rededication from this. It is a poem by Marge Percy, just one of my favorite poems at all, and I feel a kinship with her because we both had Presbyterian fathers. She had an Orthodox Jewish mother, and that's where we part company. But I hope this will be meaningful to you as well. It's called To Be of Use. The people I love the best jump into work head first, without dallying in the shallows, and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know that they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real. And I hope that you will find work that is real in this community. There's much to be done. There are many ways to be involved. And so welcome, and please jump in head first.
For that. Thank you, Amy. We, as I mentioned, have just read from the last parsha in the book of Genesis, which means we have finished a book of Torah. And when we finish the book of Torah, we have a little 3-word, technically 2-word celebration we do. We say, Chazak, Chazak, v'hitnazek, which means like strength, strength, and may you be strengthened. So on 3, we're going to say that as a group. I'm going to say the words once more so we all got it. Chazak, Chazak, v'hitnazek. And we are going to say that on 1, 2, 3. Chazak, Chazak, v'nitchazek. Strength, strength, and may we all be strengthened. I really like this Torah portion. I remember when I was first reading this portion a couple of years ago, I was reading it with commentary for the first time from Jewish people. And there was a line that I had never really paid attention before, but that a bit of commentary really struck me about, which is Jacob has brought Joseph and Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, in front of him. And he's reflecting on the fact that he thought Joseph was dead for so long. And he says, I never thought I would see your face again. And here God has let me see your sons as well. And Rashi, who is an 11th century French rabbi, had this just very tender, humanizing commentary. He interprets Jacob as saying, I never expected to see you again, and I'm so full of this love. He says, I had never dared to cherish the thought of seeing you again. And I think it's really easy to forget that these are humans that we're reading about, and that theoretically they had lives full of love and complex emotions and fears, and they didn't know, it wasn't written down at the time, they didn't know how it all ended. I'm not a grandparent or even a parent, but I think I can imagine the fullness and joy that Israel must have felt in that moment. His beloved son, who he thought was lost for so many years, is not only still alive, but doing well, has sons of his own, has passed on the family legacy to them. And that's so sweet and human to me. Not only that Jacob had that moment, but that Rashi, reading thousands and thousands of years later, took a moment to see the very, very human emotion there. It's easy to see people in Torah as mythical, as characters in a moral drama, and that's not wrong, exactly. But there's a lot of power in seeing them as people, in seeing Jacob not just as a conniving trickster figure, but also a grandfather who feels immeasurably blessed to see his son's children, despite everything that has gone wrong. And there's something interesting about the blessing that he passes on, because the very next thing he does is bless Ephraim and Manasseh. Again, these are Joseph's sons. And we, today, in more traditional communities, would bless our sons on Shabbat to be like Ephraim and Manasseh. We don't say, may you be like Jacob. We don't say, may you be like Abraham. We say, may you be like Ephraim and Manasseh, which is interesting because we don't know anything about them. They are mentioned a couple times, they get tribes, but we don't have the personality in them that we have in so many others. We don't hear about their actions. We don't know what Ephraim and Manasseh were all about. So we give sons this blessing, and we don't know necessarily what it means. The words of the blessing are themselves sort of an invitation to imagine what growing up to be a blessing would look like. Professor Moshe Benevitz says, the child has to imagine Ephraim and Manasseh in his own image, in the image of the child himself. This applies to blessings for daughters as well, to a certain extent. We say, may you be like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, but not may you be determined like Sarah or resourceful like Rebecca or something else that constrains the possible futures for the child being blessed. We leave it open for the child to grow and develop into whatever blessing they are going to grow and develop into. Again and again, our tradition emphasizes choosing blessings. At Sinai, we were told, before you are life and death, choose life. We are told to be like Ephraim and Manasseh, a blessing that we get to choose the meaning of. We have as our ancestor Jacob, who wanted so much to receive and to pass on blessings. Created as we are, B'Tselem Elohim, we are capable not only of creative acts, but transformative acts. Our ability to choose makes us able to create blessing out of the raw material of the evils of life, by being the people who show up and support each other. Last Shabbat, we had a lunchtime discussion about the Amen effect by Rabbi Sharon Brose, who has this to say: after every battle, some blessing will emerge in the morning. It must. This doesn't mean that we suffer so that we can receive those blessings. That is a cruel theology. I don't believe in a God who makes us hurt so that we can learn life lessons. And I really don't believe in a God who makes other people hurt so we can learn life lessons. But I do believe that we have the opportunity after every struggle to orient toward blessings. And I think that this week especially, that is a very rich thought and perhaps a strong one. Earlier this morning when the children were doing their tefillah, they actually filled out little cards of blessings to send to some congregations in the LA area who have lost their synagogue homes. And that is a thing that we get to do to support each other. It is a way that we can turn action or turn want into blessing and turn these dire circumstances into opportunities for connection. So this Shabbat, I would just encourage us all to think about the ways that we as individuals and as communities are able to turn the curses in our lives into blessings for each other. Shabbat Shalom. All right, what are we doing next? We are, while the Torah is still out, going to think of those who are especially in need of our blessings, those who are sick, those who are in need of healing and support. You can find the words for Misha Berach on page 253. This week, as a community, we are certainly thinking of all those affected by the fires in Los Angeles. We are also thinking of members of our community and friends of our community: Jacqueline Tara Smith, Deborah Rose, Eileen Kreisman, Ronnie Haber, Ellen Gottlieb, Vanessa Bianco, Paul McCready, Glenn Letts, Carl Wilhite, Ginny Gaston, Cindy Balin, Patty Newby, Joe Giordano, Ryan Ward, Joshua Kornblue, Joe Dover, Christina Marie Lindsay, Janine Morris, Ron Louie, Sally Wildeson, Marnie Good, Sylvia Angel, Marion Laird, Sheldon Robert, William Stangler, Lisa Bush, Patricia Barber, Adrian Helander, Kyle Asadorian, Nancy Gerstmann, Paul Norris, Barbara Esselstein, Stephen Thrasher, Julie Dorfman, Avery Acero, Connie Shane, Laura Halper, Alan Schwartz, Kendra Lorch, and Elizabeth Simons. If there are other folks that you are thinking of who we can be especially thinking of this Shabbat, I invite you to share their names in the chat or out loud in this room. Can I ask one of you to join me for the singing part? Thank you. Or both of you. All right, again, the words for Misha Berach are on page 253. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor
as the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
All right, we are now going to dress our Torah in preparation for returning it to the Ark, but not actually returning it yet. I invite folks to stand. And you feeling strong?
We'll do it.
All that chazak shouting earlier
We'll
helps
see.
worked out. All right.
Vezot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe.
We are now going to briefly visit the Haftarah, which you can find the blessing before and after for on page 254. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza b'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. We are reading from 1 Kings 2. If you are in the blue Torah commentary, which is the only one that has the Haftarah, you can find that on page 323. 1 Kings 2, starting with the very first verse. When David's life was drawing to a close, he instructed his son, Solomon, as follows: I'm going the way of all the earth. Be strong and show yourself a man. Keep the charge of the Eternal your God, walking in God's ways and following God's laws, commandments, rules, and admonitions, as recorded in the teachings of Moses, in order that you may succeed in whatever you undertake and wherever you turn. Then God will fulfill the promise that was made concerning me, if your descendants are scrupulous in their conduct and walk before me faithfully with all their heart and soul. Your line on the throne of Israel shall never end. David then goes on to make what we argue is sort of an ethical will, saying, do this, don't do this. He includes a surprising number of reminders to kill people as part of that passing on of legacy, which is a choice to make on your deathbed. We read this because it has parallels, obviously, to Jacob's sort of final moments. He is doing a very similar, has gathered people around. He knows he's on his deathbed. The rabbis actually think that maybe, based on the text, Jacob is the first person who knew when he was going to die, because everybody else up till now just sort of drops dead one moment. And they like to argue that Jacob asked to know and asked for illness to prepare him. Therefore, he is the first of our patriarchs who is actually able to say, like, I know I am dying. Here are my final words. David clearly also knows that he is dying and makes his final words as a result. And that mostly led me walking away thinking, man, it's really lucky that they did have the time to make those final words. And I think that it's a nice story, and it led me hoping that they didn't actually leave anything unsaid until that moment, and that it was a reaffirmation of what their sons already knew, as opposed to a truly new thing, because it could have not happened. So just thinking about that this Shabbat. We find the blessing after the Haftarah reading also on page 254. Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, tzur kol halamim, tzadik bechol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, hamdaber u'mkayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'nevi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha ve'limnucha lechavod ultifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu Anachnu modim lach, umevarchim otach, yitbarach shimcha, befi kochai tamid leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. Amazing. A couple pages later, we find the words, when Torah entered the world, freedom entered it. The whole Torah exists only to establish peace. Its highest teaching is love and kindness. What is hateful to you, do not do to any person. That is the whole Torah. All the rest is commentary. Go and learn it. Those who study Torah are the true guardians of civilization, honoring one another, doing acts of kindness, and making peace. These are our highest duties. But the study of Torah is equal to them all because it leads to them all. Let us learn in order to teach. Let us learn in order to do. I'd like to invite everybody to rise as we return the Torah to the Ark, singing Eitz Chaim Hi, which you can also find on 256. Eitz Chaim Hi, L'machazikim ba, V'tomchecha me'ushar, Derachecha darchei noam, V'chol netivotecha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashua, Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu keketem. We are going to stay standing and turn to page 283 for Aleinu, and we'll be doing the version up at the top. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotzer reshit, shehu sam chalkenu leacher et shemo, v'gor aleinu lehamlik malchuto. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. 287. V'ne'ema v'haya Adonai lamelech al kol ha'aretz. Bayom hahu, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, u'shemo, u'shemo echad. You may be seated. Our thoughts turn at the conclusion of the service to those who are no longer with us, those who have either died recently in the last 30 days or at this time in years past, and who are in our lives only as memory and blessing. This week, as a community, we are again thinking especially of those affected by the fires or who've lost their life to the fires in LA. We are also thinking of Devette Abkowitz, mother of Jan Abkowitz and mother-in-law of Rich Miller, grandmother of Jesslyn and Evan. We're thinking of Bud Gordon, father of Brian Gordon and father-in-law of Beth Gordon, grandfather to Hannah. We are thinking of Eric Meltzer, brother of Patty Newby. We are thinking of Forrest Wood, the grandfather of Joseph Heineman. We're thinking of Amy Thornton, sister of Fred Cohen and cousin of Larry Asher. And we are thinking of Vipin Gupta, husband of Corin Goodwin's friend. We're also remembering the Yartsites, the anniversary of the death of Debbie Kaplan, Katie Kay, Theodore Hollingsworth, Anna Brunk, Laurent Ferrigno, Abram Neymark, Michael H. Paul, Etty Wess, Rehan Gahanuni, Benjamin Weiss, Barbara Zussman, Erna Patrick, Evelyn Spire, Helen Arenvald, David Bellin, Samuel Glazer, Edith Perlmutter, Roberta Tooby. If you have a name to add, or if I've inadvertently mispronounced a name, I invite you to add that in the live stream or share it here in this room. We rise in solidarity with the mourners and find on page 294 the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shmei Rabbah, Be'alma Divrah Hirutei Be'amlich Malchutei, B'chayechon Uvyomechon Uvchaye de Kol Beit Yisrael, Ba'gala Uvizman Kariv, Vimru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'alam Omei Almaya, Yit Barak v'yishtvak v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudasha barichu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran ve'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. You may be seated. And we're going to turn to our very concluding blessings, including Kiddush, which you can find on a page. 300. Thank you, 300.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, le'toratam beritolam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, le'toratam beritolam. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
And all the kids are
Hi.
at religious school, so we will somehow manage to do this without them. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz v'te'avon. Start this passing. finally we close out. I love eating challah right before singing. It just really makes everything easy. With Oseh Shalom, the words for which you can find on page 343. Oseh Shalom bimromah, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam. Shabbat shalom. Thank you for being here. We have a new member welcome Kiddush luncheon that a lot of people have put love and work into that I invite you all to join us for, and have a beautiful week. Thank you both. Thank you both. Thank you, Liv.
Lovely service. So much. The Torah. I just want to go back and Torah study again because I want to bring in some of your points. That's when you know you've done a good job. When I need to read Torah study.
Thank you so much.
I think it's not the point about I just never thought about that.
Yeah, I really, reading that was like, oh my goodness.
So then you
Less so. Less so, yeah.
But what an interesting point. And I'm blessed my kids have not thought about that.
What does it mean to grow up to be like that?
Well, to have a role model that you is like an MT or something.
Thank you both for being here.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
No, you did wonderfully. You really did. I understand for one's own sake wanting to do one's best, and you did so well. Someday I'll remember the start to the lesson after the Haftarah. Every single time I'm just like, oh, these words don't exist.
And you know,